Hello, welcome back. This is Renew Every Morning. I'm Paul Anderson-Walsh and it is the 17th of October. Well, I am sorry to have left you just hanging yesterday, so my apologies. I will, however, promise now to pick up the story. If you were with me yesterday, if you were with me yesterday, you probably won't need to remind me, but if you weren't, you're going to need a bit of context. I'm telling a story that is called adoption assurance, and it's how I came to understand the power of what it is to be adoption in Christ. Well, now, the story I told yesterday was about the extraordinary disruption that came to my life as a young 9-year-old boy when my brother, his natural mother, came to take him away from our home. And whilst the revelation that my brother wasn't my mother's son was shocking to me, it was not even remotely as shocking as this discovery that neither was I my mother's child. In fact, I am a foster child and he was an adopted child. And it was understanding about the status of those two things that became so interesting to me. So I'm going to pick that story up if I may. And it was such a strange day actually, because to kind of step you back, my mother, when she'd finished talking to my brother about saying, don't worry, there's nothing for you to worry about because, you've got more rights than Jill and Jean. They're my natural children, but you're legally mine. She really layered it up. And then she looked at me. It was so strange because I thought I was going to get in such trouble for starting this off. But as I said, she looked relieved. And it was so interesting because when she then turned to me and said, Paul, I'm only grateful that it wasn't your mother who came last night, because if it was, I would have had to give you up. You see, Desmond's adopted. You're only fostered. Those words just hit me like you cannot possibly imagine. And then she seeks to compensate by saying, oh, don't worry about that. Your parents don't care about you anyway, so they're never going to come back. It was a profound moment when I was totally re-traumatized. But it was this notion that when my foster mother spoke to me, she spoke as if I was aware that I'd been abandoned at birth. I think I've been doing a lot of work recently on a book I'm writing about my childhood by time in care, and I read through the files. There was a lot of traumatic disturbance going on in me, but I don't know if I ever understood it to the level of consciousness. But now I was like chicken licking, and let me tell you, the sky had fallen in, and no mistake. The words son and father just felt so profoundly inappropriate. It is extraordinary. Excuse me. Sorry, beg your pardon. As for Mrs. Damon, well, goodness gracious me. I thought she was my auntie. No, obviously she wasn't. She was my social worker. But come to think of it, she frequently used to see me in the parlour and also in private, and also asked me loads of questions, and also always had a large blue notebook with her. Well, within a year, my life had changed radically. Events seemed to conspire against me, so that I wouldn't get to know the places that are way beyond those destinations on the front of the buses that used to trundle past my house on Brighton Road, Addleston, Surrey. My foster mother's revelations really shattered the tranquility, and not too many months after that, my foster father lost his battle with cancer, and he passed away very peacefully in his sleep. My mother, she passed away sometime later, and it may well have been Maundy Thursday, actually, the day before Good Friday. At her bedside, my foster mother summoned Desmond and me to talk with us. Now, we hadn't the slightest inkling of what she was going to say, and even less likely that the time had come at least to go home. Well, Desmond spoke with my mother first, and ever since that great revelation across the kitchen table, she'd been very, very tender to Desmond, and he'd been a little withdrawn, as to be said. He loved her very, very much, and he was a happy boy, and he had no desire to know this strange woman who banged on our door that night about a year ago. But my foster mother kept Desmond at her side for some time, very close. And I could just about hear the conversation they were having. And she seemed to be making arrangements for him. She kept talking about provision. She said, look, it's all arranged. The majority of what I have is yours. Now, bear in mind, she had 2 of her own natural children, but this is an adopted child we're talking about. This was getting interesting. Not so very long ago, before that cataclysmic night, I'd been given Desmond's pocket money. Well, because my foster mother said that he was lazy and I was good. And so if she was giving away presents, I thought to myself, well, I was going to be okay here. Well, Desmond got up and he came over to me and he was very tearful. And I said, what's going on? Desmond didn't say a word, just motioned me to her bedside. Well, I ventured close to my foster mother a little apprehensively and said, Mum, sit down, Paul. She said, I've got to tell you something. I don't know as I've got very long. Well, I duly sat down and we kind of gripped with this horrible sense of foreboding. I couldn't help think how weak she looked and how tired she seemed. Mrs. Growney, my friend Gerard's real mother, hovered in the background. Go on, Iris, she encouraged my foster mother. Go on. Paul, I'm dying. It won't be long now. When I die, you'll go into an orphanage. A good one, mind. With very kind people to take care of you. You're going to like it there. I wasn't listening. My foster mother was dying, and I was as good as dead. When I sat down on the bed next to her, I was Paul Walsh, a 10-year-old boy who worried if anybody else would call at my house, lest it be my biological mother, and then suddenly I was Oliver Twist. The crash and the collision between these 2 new realities was deafening and it was immobilizing. Well, sadly, there was an air bubble in her blood transfusion which ushered her homecoming. I only saw her a few times after that bedside summit, and then she was gone. With her parting, I felt that I'd have to fend for myself in this very unfriendly, dangerous world. Maureen, my big sister, came home to close up the house. Eventually, after waiting for a while, following the house closing, my new social worker arrived. And she took me and Desmond to our short-stay foster home. In a few months, Desmond was spirited away to his new life, and I was in a car en route to Enfield, Middlesex, which would be my home for the next 7 years. That first night in Enfield, I lay in my bed, hugging my Bible. I'd never read it before, but it was bequeathed to me by my foster mother together with £50 of national savings certificates. I wasn't sure why she'd given it to me, actually, but that night I was glad that she did. I hugged it for all I was worth. And through my tears I said, if you're real, God, and if you care about little boys, I really need you to come and help me. I don't think I can make it in this place. It's too dangerous. My induction to the orphanage had brought with it some truly shocking revelations, and those revelations came thick and fast in those days. The day for me to be sent off to the orphanage arrived after one afternoon in 1970. It was July. My short-term foster mother, Kate, had driven me there from our temporary home in Kenton. The day before, she'd taken me to a place called Soper's, a very smart department store in Harrow-on-the-Hill, and I bought a smart new outfit. I remember it very well. Chocolate brown trousers, flared, I may say, a beige shirt and a kind of rainbow-coloured tank top. Very, very fetching, if I may say so. Give me a break. This was the 1970s, by the way. What else could it be? Anyway, as we made our way towards the orphanage, I kind of peered glumly out of the car window, wondering if I'd ever see Desmond again. We arrived much sooner than I'd hoped. It was early afternoon and I was numb. The house wasn't anything like I'd imagined it to be. It was a large modern detached townhouse, number 221, Holtswhite Hill, Carmel. Well, a smart knock on the door brought an African lady by the name of Agnes to the door. She smiled warmly, said, "You must be Paul. Welcome, come in." Kate ushered me across the daunting threshold, and the door sort of closed, almost felt like it slammed behind me. The house was empty. Agnes explained that the children were at the park. "Shame you didn't arrive earlier. You could have gone with them," she said in a very curious accent. She was Trinidadian. She motioned for us to go and enter the parlour, and once we were seated, she offered tea and biscuits. The handover took about an hour. I wasn't sure whose benefit it was for, actually. Was it for mine or for Kate's? Anyway, before too long, Kate was gone too. She'd left. From the window of the house, I watched her as she just drove away. I was standing at that same window many times the following years, watching people go and hoping that people would come. Well, by tea time, the children returned from their adventures in the park. What an unruly shower. I had never seen such a motley crew in all of my life. The entire household gathered in the sitting room to meet their new inmate. "What's your name? Who do you support? Why'd your parents dump you? How old are you? Do you reckon you're hard? Got any good stuff?" Oh my God, I was in hell. I was sure of it. I surveyed my inquisitors. They were a rainbow coalition of demandingness. Black, white, Mediterranean, et al. The boys squealed with amusement as I tried to answer their questions with a polite, well-manicured Surrey accent, which had needed to be abandoned if I was going to survive in this place into my teenage years. My name is Paul. I support Manchester United. I'm not sure. My other parents died. I'm 10 years old. What does art mean? Oh yes, I've got World Cup stickers and some Paddington books and a Bobby Brewster collection. I once had 103 Conker. Seemed to be worthwhile trying to claim some bragging rights. But that was the extent of the asset inventory. And since I didn't think it would be prudent to disclose that I had £50, I just left it at that. Well, the boys were in hysterics. "Why do you speak posh?" the tallest and the most menacing of the boys demanded. "You a puff?" Before I could address the questions, a rather more pressing matter arose. It was the menacing boy again. "You ain't allowed to support Man United around here. It's either Spurs or Arsenal, or you get your head kicked in. Get it?" I decided to ignore the first question, given I didn't even know what a puff was, didn't have an answer anyway. I hoped I would avoid the second question, but intuitively I thought, well, I better answer the first question. I'll give whatever else I had, which was no, I'm not, which seemed to be a good answer. Now, to question number 2, that was a problem. This was about allegiance to a football team, which I immediately understood at that moment. I got that. Look, it would grieve me to give up my beloved Manchester United. I'd been a Georgie Best fan for as long as I can remember, and I was only 10 anyway, and we'd only just won the European Cup, for goodness sake. My foster mother had let me stay up and watch the game. I sat there screaming at the television in my Bobby Charlton pyjamas, which I pressed with the hot iron, the number 9 on the back, by the way. I thought it was also a trick question as well, because the wrong choice, the choice between Spurs and Arsenal, oh my goodness, it would land me in trouble. Well, look, as it turned out, Kate was a mad Spurs supporter, and she'd taken me to see Spurs before literally the day before I left. It must have been the weekend before I left. I loved the game. Spurs trounced Nottingham Forest 4-1. I didn't care much for Arsenal, and so I took a chance and said, Spurs. A great roar went up in the house. I was in acceptance. How sweet the feeling. We do learn to cope, don't we? Life isn't about adapting. Life's about adapting and surviving, isn't it? I was a survivor, a chameleon, and changing my colour to suit my environment would soon become a way of life. I pondered most of the afternoon whether to speak to Sister Agnes, as I found out she was called, who was in charge of the orphanage, about one of my concerns. I didn't think I had much to lose, and so I asked for a meeting. I was shepherded into the parlour. "Yes, Paul, what is it?" she said. "How are you getting on?" "Well," I began with all the gravitas a 10-year-old can muster, "I'm not sure I can stay here." Oh, said Sister Angela, feigning concern. Well, why? What is that?" "Well, I don't think I'm really going to fit in." Well, there was a pause. Clearly that statement required a bit more elucidation for me, so "Everyone here's coloured," I said, and I just, it's not going to work. "Oh, I see," said Sister Angela, trying to suppress a grin. "Well, I've got some news for you, young man, which may help you settle in here. So are you. Your father's from the Caribbean and your mother's from Ireland, so you're going to fit right in. I was just dumbfounded. Right there in that little parlour, this guy fell in for the second time. 3 questions, the existential ones, just exploded like in a bang in my mind. Who am I? Where do I come from? And what the hell am I doing here? Well, I would be nearly 35 years of age before I could start to answer those questions. And tomorrow I'm going to pick up with you how I started to approach them. But in the meantime, thank you so much for being with me again. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.